Now we're good.
All right, and welcome back, Mississippi wrestling fans, to the only episode of the season that you like.
Well, the first of three.
The first of three. Welcome back to the SIP Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Knox, joined again, as always, with Andy Warren. So the only episode of the year the first episode of the year that everybody likes, the rankings episode. So, I mean, Andy, I guess we can kill a little bit of time to let some people jump in. Welcome back to the SIP Wrestling episode of the year that let people jump. Yeah, sorry, had to mute that, but let people jump in because I know they're gonna ask some questions.
Well, I mean, let's go. Let's see what's happened. Bulldog Brawl happened, right? That was a good one. Pretty much everybody in the South was there, and then a couple teams from Alabama. I think Baker was there. I don't know. Hold on, let me pull that one up. But a good tournament down in Russelltown, Mississippi, aka Van Cleve. Just getting after it. A good indication of what our South State is going to look like, with sprinkled in a bit of Alabama teams in there to spice up the flavor. And then what else we have? We had North Sip rodeo duels. We got a little bit of the South went north, and then some North teams met in the middle because they don't want to come all the way down. They get I don't know if they're like a little scared of the coast or what, but we got them to come down and meet in the middle. But Van Cleve and Lewisburg had a duel up at St. Andrews. And unlike some teams, I mean, props to Cody Gilbert and Lewisburg for sacking up and taking the journey for the competition and getting after it and looking for more and and chasing some good matches.
Yeah.
And then Oak Grove went up to the North Sip rodeo duels.
Yeah.
That was interesting. Right. We had a finals there of North Pontotoc and Tupelo. Tupelo came out on top. I think Oak Grove finished first. And if I'm not mistaken, third, I'm sorry. Yeah, and then if I'm not mistaken, Oak Grove and Tupelo wrestled the next day and Oak Grove beat Tupelo. So, again, what's going on in the North? We're sitting there with the Spider-Man memes of who's good.
Who's who, right?
Who's who in the zoo. What else we got?
While you're thinking, props to Lewisburg. Is a good match between you and Van Cleve. I think they gave y'all everything that y'all wanted and more. It was a close one. What was the final there? 38-30, I think was the final.
I want to say something like that.
Yeah.
I gotta start prepping some notes, man.
We like to fly by the seat of our pants over here. It makes it better, more organic.
But I mean, I know it was a close duel. Internally, I think it was a little closer than we thought it was gonna. We have a lot of adjustments to make, and Lewisburg came down and they wrestled tough. I mean, I think it was a really good match. I think Lewisburg put it out. I don't know. Like I said, I wasn't there. I was in Florida with our young ladies. We were getting after it over there, but and I haven't quite made it through all of that live. That was a lot. When I can just look at track results and kind of pick and choose. But shout out to you for getting that stream going. I was glad we were able to get that duel going. I know Coach Sutherland was in there, did some commentating. It was funny. We were sitting there and we had some finals matches and stuff. We were ending the tournament over in Florida, and I had one of my young ladies had the stream up on her phone and had headphones on while she was watching it. And I was like, "Oh, who's commentating?" And she goes, "Oh, it's the guy you do the podcast with, and some kid from St. Andrews named Cucumber." And I was like, "Oh, it's Nicholas McCumber." I talked to Chris Truckner about that one today. We got a pretty good kick out of it, but
named Cucumber.
Yeah, shout out to Nick Cucumber McCumber.
Yeah. No, that was a lot of fun, man. I had a blast doing it. I mean, it's if no one has ever had to do that before, it's incredibly hard to color commentate a bunch of stuff by yourself. So it was nice to have some some of the young wrestlers on. Lewisburg had one of their wrestlers on during the first match and got to hear from him. And then we had two from St. Andrews get on. It was nice to hear from them. So maybe, as we live stream in the future, maybe that's something that we try to incorporate again, is having some wrestlers and fans and coaches get on and kind of talk wrestling while wrestling has happened. I thought it was fun, kind of neat. So if you liked it, let us know. We'll continue to try to do more of it as we can.
I caught a riveting bit about shoes, so it was good.
Yeah,
all sorts of flavor.
Yeah. So look, I mean, we've kind of given some time, about 6 minutes. We can't forget about the girls. There was girls at the SIP rodeo too, right? The Oxford girls finished first there and looked pretty good in that, as always. I know your girls have been wrestling a lot. I know there were some girls wrestling today in East Central. So, girls wrestling is it's getting better. It's taking off. It's growing. We do plan on doing some girls rankings too. We're just going to do the boys and then release the girls. So, don't get upset. We're forgetting you, because we're not. We're just trying to do one at a time. We're only two people, and it's a lot to do these rankings. And I think y'all are about to hear kind of some of the thought process that went behind it with me and Andy. So I guess without further delay, you want to jump into it, or do you want to try to kill 4 more minutes and give a good 10 minutes to let people?
Nah, I think we're good. I think we could jump into it. Also, just for references, it is not just Tyler and I that do these. We also have a representative from the north half of the state that wishes to remain anonymous.
Yes.
So shout out to him. And so I mean, let's get after it. Let's start.
Might as well start at 106, right?
Might as well start at 106, right? Let me pull these up.
Before we start, Andy, we'll go ahead and dive a little bit more into what we're doing. So we are going to do wrestlings. These are mine and Andy's and the anonymous source from the north. This is the SIP Wrestling Podcast rankings for the boys. We're going to release this in 3 parts. We're breaking it down so that way we can talk a little bit more individually about the weights instead of just running through a list of names and not really getting a chance to talk about them. So, today we're going to knock out, 106 to 132, right? 132.
Yep,
so,
first 5.
Yep. And so then hopefully early next week, we'll have the next 5 weight classes for you. And then hopefully by the end of the week, we'll have the remaining weight classes for you. I think is that kind of the game plan here, to try to get
we'll see how early we can get to the first 5 next week, and then really it's all schedule based. So and how we're going to be able to, how fast we can get through these rankings. That was another reason why we split it up into 3. We kind of debated on how we were going to do it, but I think splitting it up into 3, it's a lot smaller of a big pool to look through for information. And then we are going to be making a couple corrections on some stuff that we have wrong in these rankings. There are going to be some adjustments that aren't going to be displayed into the graphics, which were done by Chris Truckner, from head coach of St. Andrews. So big shout out to Chris. We really appreciate the help. He did a great job. And then I'll be trying to get with Chris later, or Tyler and I will try to get with Chris later, and we'll see if we can get some twerks to that adjustments made for those graphics. That way our graphics are spot on with what we're going to pitch. But it's a lot. So when you're diving in to placing top 8 in this size of a pool, really we're not getting like recommendations from coaches on who should be ranked, or at what weight their kids are. You'll notice that some of these kids might not be wrestling at the same weight right now that they're ranked at. Those are adjustments that, sometimes the rumor mill flies. We're not in every room in the state. Sometimes the rumor mill flies. We can get kind of a good bite on who's going where. Sometimes it'll look like a wrestler is going down or going up or whatnot. But they have more data points for us to go after at one weight. So that's where they're going to get ranked. Not really trying to split or put the same kid in multiple weight classes. Just kind of go, not take the easier route for us, but take the easier route for us. Go with what has the most data. And then, so as we hit these 5 weight classes at a time, we'll go lower, middle, upper. It's easier for us to kind of like debate, talk it out, hash it out. That way we're not doing multiple meetings. I think Tyler and I worked on these the other night for maybe 2-3 hours.
Yeah, it's about 2 hours, 40 minutes.
I mean, and it's a long time. So, and that was just the first 5.
Yeah.
So, and really there wasn't a whole lot of arguing. We pretty much came in, we looked at some head-to-head matchups, where they've wrestled, what their record is. And really a lot of the chips just kind of fell into place, and the records were kind of relating to who's who. We're going to look at, and I'm ready for the hate, but if you look at the number 1 spot, there's not really a surprise to people that have been around for a while on who's at the top. And they happen to be from Van Cleve. And to beat the man, to be the man, you gotta beat the man. A lot of those kids, there's maybe one kid up there that Tyler and I really debated, which driving into 106, the number 1 ranked kid at 106, Daniel Lindsay. And then the young man from Tupelo,
Jake Stewart.
I wanted to say Tony Stewart, but this isn't NASCAR.
Yeah, it's not NASCAR. But yeah, so we'll start 106. Let's go ahead and just start it out. The number 1 ranked, like you said, Daniel Lindsay from Van Cleve. The number 2, Jake Stewart from Tupelo. Number 3, Alex Moskowitz from Ocean Springs. Number 4, Jonah Lopez from St. Patrick. Number 5, Tristan Thomas, East Central. 6, Kay Clowers from North Pontotoc. 7 is Micha Parker from Oxford. And 8, Jensen Hitt from Lewisburg. And, like you said, that this was probably the most debated weight class between me and you. We debated at all of the weight classes, but most of the debate was who's going to be 3, 4, 5. This was the only one we really had a debate on who was going to be 1 or 2. And I still firmly think it's a toss-up, but, this is kind of a best-case scenario for 106. If you look at it this way, you got number 1 from the north and number 1 from the south, and ranked at 1 and 2. So I guess let me say that backwards. Number 1 from the south and number 1 from the north, ranked at 1 and 2. But Daniel Lindsay's off to a fever pitch start, man. It's hard to argue with him being 1 or 2. Same with Jake Stewart. But at the end of the day, Daniel Lindsay's been bonusing everybody, and it's hard to argue that point.
So one of the things for me, right, and this may, like we said, we're not up north, right? So we don't see everything. So a big factor for me with putting Daniel up at number 1 over Mr. Stewart was, 1, Daniel has bonused everybody in the South, right? So he's a bonus win for people that don't know. That's a major decision, a tech fall, or a pin. So anything over your bonus decision points. So 3, 4, 5, right? So Daniel has bonused every single wrestler that has wrestled in the South, with the exception of one time with the number 3 ranked Alex Moskowitz, that they wrestled a tighter decision, and Daniel still came out on top. Daniel also has a win up in St. Andrews over Jensen Hitt, the number 8 ranked cat. And then the kind of like a downside for me with Jake Stewart is a lack of consistency in the weight. So for me, with having he kind of bounced around a lot. Went 106 for a while, went 113 for a little while, and it's kind of all over the place. Kind of speaking with some of the coaches up there, it seems like 106 is his spot. And we don't know what that is. We don't know if that is just a necessity for duels. Could it be weight issues? I don't know. I don't think so. But really, so Daniel's bonus percentage over everybody in the South, and then their crossover with common opponents, it put Daniel over the edge for me. Alex Moskowitz, Jonah Lopez out of 3 and 4. Alex Moskowitz has outside of Daniel Lindsay, has pretty much run the table in the South with big wins. Jonah Lopez, Tristan Thomas, they've all been putting a lot of really good work in, getting a lot of good wins. And then up north with Kai Flowers, Mika Parker, and Jensen Hitt rounding out that top 8.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't disagree with you on, Lindsay and Stewart. I mean, we had that. We went round and round about it already. I agree. The bonus point percentage kind of tips in the favor for Daniel Lindsay. I mean, they do have a common opponent in Jensen Hitt, and Jake Stewart did pin Jensen, where I think Daniel teched him. But I mean, you're talking about a tech compared to a pin. I mean, you're splitting hairs at this point. I think the other thing that tips the scale in Daniel Lindsay's favor is the out of state opponents that y'all have wrestled in Van Cleve. And how he's done kind of in the out of state with the out of state opponents at the varsity level. So I kind of tip it a little bit there. But yeah, I mean, 106, it's going to be a fun one. I think that realistically, out of the top 3, I think you could see any combination of the top 3 wrestling each other in the state championship for it. So we'll see.
And with the rumor mill flowing, right? I mean, there's a possibility that there's a young man up a weight that's about to drop down that could really cause some trouble.
Yeah,
a big wrench. We're talking about a kid that if he makes his way down, I mean that's a top of the podium candidate for sure.
Yeah.
So I mean, like these are looking after South State when we do our second set of rankings could be shuffled quite a bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Depending on how that goes, but
for sure, and we're going to see some of these kids match at the dual state, and then that'll change it up a little bit too. So, but right now, for the preliminary SIP Wrestling podcast rankings, Daniel Lindsay 1, Jake Stewart 2, Alex Moskowitz 3, and Jonah Lopez 4. And then we've posted it on Facebook for the rest. Go out there and look. So let's move on. 103. Caden Alspall. How you say his last name? Because I mess it up all the time. Allspaw. Returning state champ, still undefeated, bonus in everybody. Is he the one who's pinned everybody he's wrestled except for a few, or is that his brother?
I would say probably, but I might be pulling some out of my butt.
Returning state champ, hard to argue that. If you want to be the number 1 in that weight class, you got to beat the returning number 1 in that weight class. And I mean, if you won 113 last year and you haven't been beat, you're going to stay there until somebody beats you. That's just the way it's going to work. But 2 is a man who might be nipping on his heels, and Ace McCracken, who's had a hell of a season himself. I think when we did these rankings, he was somewhere around 25-0, 30-0, something like that. I mean, he's fever pace for wrestling.
I mean, he's killing it. I mean, and he's wrestling tough, right?
Yeah.
This is another one that could potentially go either way. But I mean, like we said, to be the man, you got to beat the man, right? And so for us, we felt that Caden hasn't lost his spot.
Yeah.
So this is a correction, right? For 3 and 4, that we got to flip those.
Yeah.
So, and that was something that it was an oversight of Tyler and I. So it'll go Caden Allspaw, Ace McCracken, Todd Brewer at number 3, and then Silas Metz at number 4. Due to Silas Metz and Todd Brewer had a head-to-head, really tight one. It was a 2-1 match that Tyler and I missed when we were doing these rankings. Otherwise, it would have been flipped. And then Keller Broussard, Dylan Hubble, Holden Vaughn, and Braden Thompson from North Pontotoc round out the top 8.
Yeah.
Ace McCracken has been absolutely killing it up north.
Yeah, killing
it. If I'm not mistaken, he's jumped up. He bumped up to 120 and wrestled Eric Swift from DeSoto Central as well. And Ace McCracken has a win over Eric Swift too.
Does he?
So, I mean, he's heavy. I mean, that's a. You look at this, if you guys listen to like FRL Flow Radio Live, right? If we put these kids on tiers, right? That tier 1 is Caden Allspaw and Ace McCracken.
Yeah.
And then next topic.
Yeah.
So.
No, I completely agree. But I mean, it's just, it's hard to argue. I mean, you're a returning state champ, Caden Allspaw, that's why you're 1. And not just that, but I think if we redid our pound for pound, I think he might be my number one pound for pound in the state. Just having watched him wrestle a couple times this year and last year, and seeing who he's beating and how he's beating them is it's nice. But I mean, Ace McCracken's, but he put that work in. I know he didn't have probably a finish last year at state that he didn't really want. He got beat twice by one of our kids. Ha ha. But I know his finish wasn't there last year where he wanted it, but he really seemed to light a fire and put some work in, and he's looking great. And it will be fun to watch those two wrestle at some point because they're going to have to match up at some point, hopefully. If it all plays out and all shakes out the way that we want it to, then we'll get to see those two in the state final, and it should be a firework match. But
I mean, hey, if this all works out the way that it's supposed to, there's a very solid potential that we see this at Dual State. This is one of those from both those teams are going to be there if the matchups match up. I think we have a seeding, a pretty important seeding match for that number one seed coming up. I think they got snowed out and they pushed the Lewisburg Tupelo match to next week, I think Tuesday sometime.
Tuesday.
And I think that there has been an appeal put in for that to count for seeding.
Yeah.
So because
of weather.
Yes, and then some other folks up north, quack won't wrestle. So but
yeah, another young man at 113 who's put that work in this year is Todd Brewer. Again, another one of those kids who I don't think had maybe the finish that he was hoping to have last year, but put that work in and looked really good. And I have no doubt that Todd Brewer Silas Metz match was a barn burner of a match. I bet it was fun to watch. So,
yeah. Yep. And Todd is another one of those kids that every time I see him wrestling somebody that's not Caden Allspaw, he's putting work in.
Yeah. He's one of those kids that's hard to not like, the few times I've seen him in tournaments.
I saw him today. I saw Todd Brewer today, and he was walking around East Central's gym
wearing a Santa Claus robe.
Wearing a Santa Claus robe.
Yeah, I saw it on a little bit of the live stream that Ocean Springs had up. You gotta like a kid who's wearing a Santa Claus robe, right?
And then I think last year at Dual State, Picayune wasn't even there, but Todd Brewer was, and I think Todd Brewer hid 1,000 little tiny ducks around Oak Grove High School. You're finding them all over the place.
It seems like a fun kid. He's one of those that always comes up and talks at tournaments, and I appreciate that.
Speaking of East Central and Picayune, right? So Picayune in the finals, the boys' side of that finals was Picayune over Ocean Springs. So that'll have some pretty major seeding impact as well.
It will.
It'll be interesting to see. I'm off the top of my head, I'm not sure how that's going to seed out, but it'll be pretty interesting to see how those seeds fall after that last bit in the South.
It will. Something else from 113. It's nice to see a Center Hill wrestler on here. I know that their program is was senior driven the last 2 years, and they're pretty young this year, and maybe not wrestling to what we've seen them in the past. But it's nice to see one of their kids on the rankings, and hopefully Dylan Hubble stays here. And has some success for that program. A program that I think a lot of people, let's call it what it is, was kind of dead to rights at the end of last year because there was some uncertainty if Tyler was going to come back and Miller was going to come back and coach him or what was going to happen with the program. So it's nice to see that they're wrestling as much as they can, and it's nice to see that they have somebody on this top 8 list to start. So hopefully that continues on.
Yep.
All right, let's jump over to 120. Look, we're running through this a lot faster than I thought we would, which is great.
Yeah, which is fine because and what's also pretty crazy is we're not getting a whole lot of questions either. So either we're doing really bad or they're like, these guys are idiots and we're out.
No, it's going to come later on. They're not going to do it while we're live on the air. They're going to come later on in the inbox. And then
they'll hit you up in your inbox.
Yeah, and then we'll have to answer the next one. But 120, I don't think there's any surprise at 120 that Quentin Carroll takes the one spot. Again, if you've won state a handful of times, it's hard to argue it, and Quinn has been the man in Mississippi at 106. I know he's bumped up to 120, but still nobody's beat him in the state in a regular season, so it's hard to argue that one. So Quinn's going to top the list, and then number 2 coming in right behind him is Eric Swift, who does have a big win over Jaden Gibson sitting at 4. And then, but 3 is Alejandro Edora from Ocean Springs. And then, like I already said, Jaden Gibson from Oxford at 4, Justin Whittington from Oak Grove at 5, Colton Morrow from Saltillo at 6, Michael Loco from St. Patrick at 7, and then Spence Wigley from Lewisburg at 8. One of my favorite wrestlers in the state because the guy's got the heart of a lion.
Yeah, I mean, kind of crappy for a lot of these. The big stories here really in the top 4. So Quinn Carroll, right, returning 3-time state champion, at 106, bumped up. Like you said, been doing work, undefeated in the state. Nothing.
Eric Swift, the state runner-up.
So one knock that we could have on Quinn is there's been a couple competitions where he hasn't wrestled due to he's had a couple health problems this year. Mm-hmm. Nothing super crazy, food poisoning, whatnot.
Yeah.
And then Eric Swift, I mean, that's an easy second, right?
Yeah.
Same thing. We see a lot of these, like when we're looking at the guys that are like, 3 and 4 down there, 1 and 2s have really been separating themselves from the pack. And then you can kind of see with big wins over maybe the 3 and 4 guys who are also really separating them from the pack from the 5 through 8 guys, and then the guys that aren't ranked.
Right.
So it's like Alejandro Edora, is another kid that's just pretty much putting the hurt on everybody that's not Quinn Carroll in the way in the South. Yeah. And I know Jaden Gibson is doing the same thing up north.
Yeah. So, and I mean, the only loss he has is Eric Swift. It was a close match. Came down towards the end. Eric Swift came out twice too. Rumor mill is rumor mill. We'll see if all of these people stay at this weight. I don't want to put rumor mill laundry out there until it's been confirmed, but I think the people in the north that were at the SIP or the rodeo, the North Mississippi Rodeo, whatever they call it, the rodeo duels. I think they're kind of seeing what the writing on the wall is for somebody up there at 120, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. I mean, I think Swift and Edora is going to be a good match, which if all shakes out the right way, we could see that in the semis, or maybe depending on how they get seeded, maybe not. I think Swift and Carroll will be a fun state championship match again. I mean, Eric Swift was in a great one last year, so it'd be fun to see him in another good one this year.
Yeah, so. And then I think that's another one. So, I mean, Tyler might be afraid to air out some rumor mills, but I'm not, right? So Jaden Gibson has dropped down to 113. And this is one of from what we understand, right? Like we said, we're not there. So we're looking at track, looking at the North Sip Rodeo. Jaden Gibson did drop down to 113 for the North Sip Rodeo. We ranked him at 120 because that's where a majority of the data points were.
Right.
Had too small of a sample size to really throw him into the mix at 113. And then really of the kids right off the top of my head that were there at 113 that he did wrestle, I don't think that they were on this list. And if they were really high. Now, Oxford and Saltillo did wrestle. We did not see what could potentially be a North State Finals there with Jaden Gibson and Ace McCracken. I don't know, quack, but it would love to see it. Love to see some early season fireworks, mid-season fireworks as a preemptive. Look, if you're not chasing competition, you're wrong.
That's right. So, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it must be a duck, right?
Or a goose. I don't know.
Either way, it's a waterfowl. All right, so just go and move on. 126, you got the brother of Caden and Chase, Al Spall, sitting at 1. I know I said his name wrong again. Just correct me later. 2, Aiden Bates from North Pontotoc. 3, Christopher Perez from Oxford. 4, Logan Spain from St. Patrick. 5, Christian Meadows from East Central. 6, Landon Jefferson from Hernando. So Hernando, first-year program, gets a guy on the list. Collier Taylor from Saltillo's at 7. And then Angelo with the best last name in wrestling, Max Imachuk from Lewisburg. That rounds out your 8. Again, it's hard to argue. Chase being at 1. I mean, we can make the argument because Aiden Bates has wrestled his butt off and won a lot of big matches and a lot of good matches and is also undefeated.
So I don't think that he's undefeated. And he might have. I know he's lost 1. Aiden Bates, solid social media presence. I've enjoyed following your season and your updates.
Agreed.
So I know he does have an L off the dome. I don't know if that was in state or out of state, where that came from, but I know he is having a heck of a season. Again, Chase Allspaw, returning state finalist. I mean, it's hard not to put a kid of that caliber in the same weight coming back.
Right.
The only kid in the state that put it to him last year is gone. I mean, really, I think it's Chase's weight to lose.
Yeah.
But I think Aiden Bates could give him a heck of a run. And Christopher Perez is another kid that's a dangerous matchup in the semifinals, because you look at Aiden Bates and Christopher Perez going 1 and 2 up north. So one of those is going to be on the opposite side of the bracket, sitting in the 3 or 4 spot, depending on how it gets seeded. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out.
Yeah. And with those two wrestling a decent amount, it'll be fun to see, like, how that plays out too. Like, if the more, because it's hard. It's just like football, right? It's hard to beat somebody once. It's even harder to beat them twice. Mm-hmm. It's almost impossible to beat them 3 times. So, it'll be fun to see how that shakes out in the North. Because, I mean, you could see that reverse after North State too. So we'll see.
We could. 3 and 4 or 4. We have Logan Spain from St. Patrick's. St. Patrick made a heck of a jump this year. They've been a lot of fun to watch. Christian Meadow, another kid, made it to the Bulldog Brawl finals, wrestled Chase Allspaw. I think Chase got a tech fall over him. But at the beginning of that match, it looked like it could have been a lot closer than it was. But, I mean, at the end, Chase started to run away with it, which is kind of Chase's game plan, scores a lot of points.
Right. And, like I said earlier, it's nice to see anytime there's a first-year program in the state, it's nice to see when they have somebody that comes right out the gate and competing. And Landon Jefferson, he's got enough wins in the North over some people that we felt like it was, we could put him on this list. And most of that's because of what we heard from the anonymous source in the North. But it's nice to see him sitting there at 6 and give, Hernando the props for having somebody on here first year. So good job, man. Good job. You want to move on to 132, or you want to talk more about 126?
No, I think we're pretty solid.
All right. 132, again, another Van Cleve wrestler sitting at 1. Braden Carroll sitting at 1. Bryce DeFlippo.
Wait, and hear me out. If we would have done this before Christmas break, right? Mm-hmm. Braden Carroll would not be in that number 1 spot.
Right. He's turned it on, though.
Probably be at the number 2 spot.
Yeah.
So 1 and 2, right? Those kids are 50-50 this year. For me, that went into a dominant win.
Yeah.
Right. I want to say at the beginning of the season, Bryce DeFlippo was coming off of an injury. And him and Brady wrestled. I think Bryce got him with a 7-4 decision, if memory serves right. And then they met once again in the finals of the Bulldog Brawl. And Brady tech pinned him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, that goes dominance of the win.
Well, most recent win too.
And most recent win. And then
returning state champ.
And Brady is a returning state champ and a returning state finalist. So 2 years ago was a state champ at 113. Last year lost to Gabe Shanks in the state finals at 120. Put on a little bit of weight this year, and he's pulled his head out of his butt after some early season issues and really getting after it now.
Yeah.
And the fire's been lit, and he's been cracking the whip.
Yeah, and we're gonna see him and Bryce again, at South State.
Yep.
So, that'll be the coin toss probably that obviously it'll be the toss up matchup that tips the scale in one favor or not the other, but going into the state tournament. But yeah, I mean it's been fun to watch Bryce wrestle the last couple of years. It's nice to see him put it together again this year. Braden he kind of just looks, as he walks out to the mat, just looks so lethargically lazy. It's kind of like the old heavyweight from Pride FC. I can't remember his name. The European cat. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Somebody will remember his name. But yeah, it'll be fun to see them. But at 3, you got Levi Gooch, North Pontotoc, and then 4, Gage Hitt from Lewisburg. Again, two guys that just kind of go back and forth in the North. Over the last 2 years. 5, Heisman Murphy from Ocean Springs. 6, Braxton Sandlin from Saltillo. 7, Camden Shaw from Tupelo. And then another first-year program, 8, Emmanuel Smith, Olive Branch. So, I think 1 and 2 was not hard to do in that weight class. 3 and 4 was not hard to do in that weight class. 5 felt like
was a solid,
pretty solid 5.
one.
And then, 6, 7, and 8 were ones that we kind of debated. But, at the end of the day, it shaked out, like you said, head-to-heads and how they've wrestled each other. So this weight class was probably one of the easier ones to do, but mostly because Van Cleve, St. Patrick, Lewisburg, and Ocean Springs are wrestling a fair amount, And then, North Pontotoc, even though they've been wrestling more this year than they have in the past at this point of the year, but there is that head-to-head between Gooch and Hitt that was easy to kind of seed that one or rank that one out too. So we'll get a chance to see those two again. And, potentially dual state, definitely in North State. We'll see how that goes. I mean, we get a chance to see. I know we've seen Heisman Murphy and Bryce wrestle a few times, so we'll probably get to see that one again. So who knows how it all changes out.
As off the top of what I've seen, right? So I know Heisman and Bryce have wrestled at least twice. Both of those matches that I've seen have went pretty heavy Bryce's way. And then, like we said, we know Brady Carroll and Heisman Murphy have wrestled twice. Both of those went very heavy Brady's way. And then with the split between Bryce and Brady, I mean, they're a lot of fun to watch. A lot of good scraps.
Yeah, and I'll have to get the age of all these kids, but one thing that's fun to look at across all these weights, and I'm going to hit on it on 132, and we can go backwards and talk about it again. But there's a lot of young wrestlers on this list at these weight class. I mean, Brady's what, a 9th grader?
Brady is a sophomore.
Bryce,
I think, is either a junior or a senior. I think he's a junior.
Yeah.
I know Heisman is a freshman.
Right.
I
think Gage is a sophomore or junior. He's got a couple more years, and I don't know about Levi Gooch or the rest of them, but most of these weights have a lot of younger wrestlers in them, so we're going to get a chance to see most of them for years to come. And as happens with boys, they tend to grow. They'll probably all grow at the same time, and we'll probably get to see a lot of these matchups for a lot of years. And that's the fun thing about these smaller guys is we turn around this year and you got Braden and Heisman and at 132. Well, next year those guys might be in the near the 160 weight class or the 150 weight class, and we'll get to see how it happens as they get bigger. But this year that's how it rounds out. Yeah, I mean that's really about it. I mean I guess we can open it up to questions, or we can just continue to talk to each other for a little bit and get off. But yeah. Camden commented he's glad to be at 7th. Man, I'm glad to see you at 7th too, Camden. Put the work in, go up the list. You know what I mean? Don't settle for 7th. Don't stop till you hit 1st, right?
And then like the big thing is like these are like the opinions of mine and Tyler and our anonymous source, and they literally mean nothing.
Mean absolutely nothing.
It's literally just the opinion of three gentlemen talking about high school wrestling.
That's right.
And like, I mean, that's it. So I mean, we kind of have been around wrestling enough. I mean, between Tyler and I, we probably have almost 50 years of experience with wrestling. I mean, we've been around wrestling for a long time. We've been around wrestling from the state. Okay, so we got one question that says, okay, so here we go. We got some questions. All right. Hey, it says, when are y'all releasing the rest of the boys and girls rankings, right? So girls rankings will be done by me. And I need to get my butt in gear and start working on that. I do not have, and I will not set a timeline for myself, but probably, I mean, they will for sure be there before South State. And then we will do another set for boys and girls after South State and North State before State. And then following the state tournament, I'm sure Tyler and my butts will be on here doing the season-ending wrap-up. So for the other sets, so our next 5 weights, right? So it'll be 138 through 38, 44, 50, 57, 65. Tyler and I will probably start working on those early this week. Hopefully have those out by the end of this week. And then if we can get our butts in gear, right? That's a figuring out our schedules is, I go back to work. I've been off for a month. I go back to work this week. So let me just fill you guys up with a whole bunch of excuses that you guys don't care about. Hopefully we can knock out, Tyler and I can just do 2 meetings. We might just drop the middle guy rankings or the middle weights just as a graphic. And then while Tyler and I are still racking our heads over the heavyweights, we haven't discussed that yet. And then just do one podcast in there to save us some time. But we'll see how that works out. And then they asked if we're going to do another round of rankings after it becomes apparent who is dropping weight classes. So yes. And so we will be doing another round of rankings after it is apparent who's dropping ranking or who's dropping a weight class, but it's not going to become apparent and solid in stone until after South State, right? So after South State, we're going to have, we should have full brackets that we're looking at for the North, for the North and for the South for the state tournament, right? So we should be able to look at those 16 individuals from the entire state in one tournament, and Tyler and I should be able to seed those out. The good part about that is it's set in stone. Once they're done with South State, they're not moving. So that makes our job a lot easier. And then have we did the heavyweights? No, we have not. So Tyler and I did the first 5 weights. So we did
106 to 132.
Yep, 106 to 132. And then that I mean, like we said, that took us about 2.5, 3 hours to knock out ourselves. You guys have been around Tyler and I long enough that knows that Tyler and I don't do a whole lot of things fast. So we're getting to it because trust me, we know you guys want the rankings. We want to put out rankings to you guys, but we want to put out a quality product. We don't want to slap things together. Tyler and I are both military guys and we hate rework.
Yeah.
So that's why we want to put out a quality product where, I mean, like we're going to hold it against ourselves when we have to make those corrections and that kind of stuff. Like we did at 113 with Todd Brewer and Silas Metz, right?
Yeah.
Do I think you're going to be ranked? I don't know, man. Really, we'll get there when we get there. And then I hope you are.
Yeah. And I think we could probably maybe if the time works out right, maybe after the dual state, we can try to do a real quick just adjustment of the rankings, maybe with just a graphic. I don't know if we're going to get a chance to do a pod on it or a live stream on it. Maybe that's going to be a short timeline and turnaround since, that's right around the corner. So I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to do the rest of the weight classes. It's just going to take us some time. I mean, we were up to, 11:40?
Yeah,
the other night.
It was a late night. So, and that's our burden to bear, right?
Right.
That is something that Tyler and I have committed to. And so, I mean, really, we just got to buckle down, make it work for us.
But hopefully
we really just want to knock out a quality product.
We're not going to promise anything, but I'm really going to shoot and try to hold mine and Andy's feet to the fire and try to get something out by Wednesday.
My whole goal is to be completely done with rankings for the next 9 weights. My goal is that we're done by Friday.
Right. That's the goal.
Because I would like these rankings, this first wave of rankings, to be done by dual state, and then because I want to put some foot and mouth after it.
So there are some rumors about new teams joining. Sorry, I'm skipping ahead, answering more.
No, that's fine, because I was just about to touch it.
Yeah, there are some rumors about new teams joining next season. I know there's some rumors on the coast about some new teams joining. I know there's some rumors in the north about some new teams joining. There's even some rumors in the central part of the state about some new teams joining. So hopefully those rumors are true. I can't speak exactly to who the teams are in the north. Andy might be able to speak more on the south, but I can speak to the central part of the state. So around the Jackson Metro, there is rumor that Northwest Rankin, Brandon, and Pearl are all potentially going to have teams next year. Hopefully we get one of those 3. If we get all of those 3, that's even better, because that's really the part of the state that we're lacking wrestling in, is the central part of the state. I mean, other than St. Andrews and Ridgeland, you got to go down to Mendenhall, which is still considered the central part of the state, but I mean that's still a decent hour from Ridgeland, or Starkville will be the next closest one, and that's a good hour and a half from Jackson. So hopefully,
nobody wants to go to Starkville anyways. Go Rebs.
No one wants to go to either one of them. Roll Tide. So it is. Hopefully those teams join. A lot of coaches in the state, parents in the state, can put pressure on those schools to help join. Really, the best thing to do to help grow the sport is continue to encourage the kids that are doing the sport and do
Boo. This. Somebody said Hail State.
That's my little brother.
And also, like rest your soul for having to be related to him.
Yeah. Right. But
and I wasn't talking to you there, Tyler.
Oh, no, you're talking to him. But, I mean, the best thing you can do to help grow the sport now is, as parents and coaches and fans, is just continue to support it. The more support that it gets, the more people that show up to tournaments, the more people that show up to duels, the more people that watch these streams and the live streams of the matches, then the better, right? Like, that's ammunition we have when we go in here and talk to these high schools about adding programs and say, look, this is why you need to add it. Look at how much, look at what's happening in the state already. You don't want to be behind the bell. You want to be ahead of the bell on this one. So, but yeah, hopefully that works out for the Jackson Metro.
Yeah. Hopefully we get some more teams in the Jackson Metro. Really hoping that we get some more teams on the coast. Excuse me. I know Harrison Central has already started looking like, I think they've maybe started practicing. They might be kind of operating like a club right now. They should be going next season. We should be seeing Harrison Central. Rumor mills about West Harrison, Gulfport, Biloxi. D'Iberville started this year. Long Beach, hopefully. Either Pascagoula or Gaucher, one of them. I know that they split athletic directors, and one of their athletic directors was trying to start a program. I know Van Cleve's athletic director gets calls about wrestling pretty frequently from schools around the coast. So that's a very hopeful sign that it grows. And then with MSHAA taking over or sanctioning our state tournament, next year, and it goes into those school sports awards. Hopefully that entices a lot more schools to jump in. We know that for a handful of schools that has been kind of the thing that's keeping them on the fence of whether to go yay or nay with it has been that it wasn't a sanctioned state tournament. So hopefully they'll get off the fence on the right side of it once that gets sanctioned. And then he asked, what does the new referee pipeline look like?
We need help.
We need all the help we can get, man. And hey, I'll get to your question right there about Tupelo in a minute. But we need help, man. I know there's with the way that the sport's growing and the amount of officials that we have, it's growing faster than the number of officials, right? So these kids want to get after it. These kids want to scrap. These kids cannot scrap without officials. So it's they're needed, right? So if you guys are interested in officiating, we talked about it on a couple podcasts ago. We'll talk about it now. I mean, I will talk about this until I'm blue in the face. Please reach out to us. We'll put you in contact with some officials to help you guys get started on that. Please reach out to the Mississippi Wrestling Foundation page. Those guys will put you out. David Sutherland, Chris Truckner, Brian Fox, reach out to those guys individually. I know that most of those guys probably have blown up inboxes all the time, but I'm sure if somebody's trying to referee, that'll go right to the top. That'll get their attention, right? Because we need more referees and we need quality referees. Yeah. And we want referees that can stay around for a while. Right. So a lot of those kids that, those upperclassmen that kind of got bit by the wrestling bug and they just were, unfortunately, the sport hit them too late in their life and they want to stay in and support, right? That's a great pipeline, right? If you're going to college, right, and you're staying local and you're around these programs and you have the time, it's a good way to make some good money too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I mean, some of those officials for those tournaments, they make pretty good money. And then dual meets, it's the money's there, right? And like good quality officials are hard to come by.
Yeah.
And we don't. And then as fans and coaches and parents and all that kind of stuff, we need to treat our officials right. Like it's hard. I mean, we've all talked about it. We've all talked about, they're people, they make mistakes, right? And like most of you guys have never officiated matches, right? I mean, I've officiated challenge matches. Tyler's probably officiated some matches. I mean, it's tough. I mean, and a lot of that stuff gets caught up super fast. I want to try to get my book signed off so I can officiate some matches, help out when I can. My thing is I can't really, if I have to pick between officiating and coaching, I'm going to pick coaching every time. But I guess I'll get off my soapbox about needing officials. If you guys want to be an official, like, let us know. We're more than happy to help you out.
Yeah, even current parents, like even if your kid's wrestling, you can still officiate as long as you're doing it in a just manner. I mean, it's not unheard of to have a parent as an official. We've had it happen before when wrestling was in its infancy. It's still in its infancy here, but in the first couple seasons we've had it before. So, I mean, we need help. We need help getting officials, and I would do more of it, but I live 3 hours away from most of the wrestling, so it just doesn't financially make sense for me to do it. If they add the Jackson Metro, then I will definitely be an official. Again, like Andy, when I'm not coaching. So we need help, man. The more we can get, the better. All right, man. Let's hit the Tupelo question.
Yep, Mr. Reed wants to know our thoughts on Tupelo as a team and their improvements. Yeah, I mean, they're definitely a team, right?
They've improved, man. You can't deny they've improved.
They've improved, right?
They went from being like middle of the pack, bottom of the middle of the pack last year to being firmly in the pack this year. So
am I ready to eat my hat on it? Absolutely not, right?
No.
I mean, you guys beat North Pontotoc, right? That's a good win. I mean, that's a good win for you guys. And you keep grinding.
Now, if you turn around and beat Lewisburg this week, then maybe we'll change our tune. Maybe.
We'll see.
Until then, we think you're a contender, but we think you're.
I'm pretender, not contender.
Well, I'm going to
right?
say
I'm hard on it, right?
I'm going to say they're a contender, but they could be a pretender. But they're more of a contender right now.
I disagree.
Well,
I
agree to
strongly
disagree. Agree to
But
disagree.
but I mean, they have improved, right?
They have. But
So
again, like we said earlier in the year, that was to be expected with Brian Fox taking over as head coach. You know,
and they're what, the second year program,
I think third
year program.
Yeah, because they had Grady the first year, and Grady did a good job, and then they had can't remember who it was last year, and then Brian this year. So I think they're a third year program.
Yeah, Tupelo's new coach isn't sus. That's just his mustache, right? You might just he might rob a bank, rob a train.
Just don't get any candy from his van.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't be buying any vans that he's selling.
He does have the best mustache in Mississippi wrestling, though. So, no, we love Brian. We like to rib him, but we love Brian. So. But hey, look, that rounds out our rankings, guys. I mean, we can sit here and answer questions all night long. Unfortunately, it is 8:30. Andy doesn't have to work tomorrow, but I do have drill. So
Tyler's got drill in the snowpocalypse.
And the snowpocalypse. So yeah, and man, look, as always, thanks everybody for watching, and thanks everybody for listening. Thanks everybody for sharing. Go back and rewatch this if you want to. Share it with everybody. We might have some good news moving forward on the next podcast, hopefully with maybe a sponsor, maybe, and some potential gear opportunity from us and for your teams and stuff. So we'll see. Hopefully, maybe we can work that out before the next one. But look, we're gonna get these. We're gonna get these next set of rankings out to you as fast as we can get them out to you and as best as we can.
Get these rankings knocked out. And then we want to get back to getting guests on here. We have multiple guests lined up. We were supposed to have a guest on last weekend. I had zero voice. So we have Randall Wilson, Van Cleve graduate, wrestling up at MSJ is lined up. We're going to get him on the pod. Kaylee Savage wrestling at Mount Olive.
Hey, she wrestled today. They wrestled today, by the way. I didn't look at the results, but we'll get those to you soon. We'll post it on the Facebook page.
Yep. We're going to get her. We've already talked. We're going to get her on. Really just looking to get all those college kids. Zayd Alaudi. Yeah. Reach out to us, man. We want to get you on the pod too. We really want to highlight all these wrestlers that are going on to the next level. Let them come talk about their transitions to the next level, how that's going, what's different than what they were going through in the past, how it compares, because I mean, where the nature of the beast is a lot of these kids are the first time away from home. It hits them all differently. A lot of them are away from everybody. Didn't really take friends with them to college. So it really want to highlight these opportunities as we're going, and then hopefully we can keep getting these on. We have a college coach lined up at some point in time, and then that's what we're looking for in the future. And then Tyler and I, on top of what he just talked about, Tyler and I at the end of the season are going to do a Mississippi Wrestling Podcast Outstanding Wrestler of the Year award. We'll come up with a super sweet name for it and see if we can get that out. And Tyler and I can throw hands on that and who we want to give that to.
Yeah. But look, we'll definitely try to hit some kid clubs stuff across the state. I think that's one thing. That would be
fun.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that we're going to do in the off season. That's kind of when the club wrestling picks up is after the high school season. So we'll probably try to do spot podcasts here and there as we see kids wrestling across the state. So look,
I know Grady Hurley with UFM, they want to get on. So we'd like to have those guys in and have them talk about their club. Really
still trying to work something out with Tim and them with the Mississippi Wrestling Network. I talked to him just the other day, so we're trying to work something out as well. So look, the future's bright. The possibilities are endless. There's so much room for activities. Bump begs were a horrible idea, but it's always a fun idea, you know? So look,
No
man,
pouch.
yeah, as always, thanks everybody. Stay tuned for the next one. Hopefully we can get these out. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, or if you just want to tell us how dumb we are, reach out and hit us up in the inbox. We will answer any question you pose to the inbox. We always try to get back in a timely manner. Andy, it's a pleasure. I love seeing your
Always a
face as
pleasure.
always. I'm going to miss
Next
seeing the
time it'll be
beard.
clean shaven.
I know. I'm going to miss the beard as it goes away, but I'll just remember the fun time that we had with the beard.
That's right.
Andy, you got anything else before we get
Nope.
off? All right. Well,
I'm
look,
good to go.
hey, guys, until next time, stay at it, keep working, get better, and let's wrestle Mississippi.
Yep. Hungry dogs hunt. Quack, quack. Don't duck.